Hello and welcome. My name's Meredith McCarthy, and I love to talk about all sorts of things to do with hypnotherapy. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist here in Wellington, New Zealand, and thank you for those that have tuned in before for subscribing, and for those that haven't sort of listened to me before. Buckle up. We've got a good little conversation about to happen around goals and achieving your goals. So, hope you enjoy this one. When it comes to goals, I'm a great believer that often people dream about what they would like to do, but if they don't have the way of knowing how to go about it, that can cause a roadblock. Or they don't have the belief that they could achieve it, and there lies another roadblock. These mental roadblocks are things that we need to resolve if we're going to ever allow ourselves to achieve the goals that we put in front. Now, an entrepreneurial mindset is an interesting one. If I think about how I learnt to be who I've been, my father was probably a good example for my little brain to realize that if you put your mind to something, you can achieve it. Now, he was an entrepreneur. He was a business owner of many properties, and he did the stock market. He was a property developer, in other words. Now, he wasn't always a property developer. That was something that he fell into after being a quantity surveyor. When we're thinking about opportunities and people that come into your life, they can change your trajectory, if you like, where you're heading. And if we think about an entrepreneurial mindset, it's someone who is looking out for opportunities other people might not take on board as an actual opportunity. They might go, oh, that's too hard, or I could never do that. And very easily, they just walk away. Whereas if they had thought, what if? What if I could do that? What if that would be really good for my future? And they started to ponder on it, get a little bit more thoughtfulness and time to mature. Then they move into the how. How might I then make this idea come to life? Now, they may be missing information about how they're going to. So, this is where looking at experts in the field, like getting a mentor or looking at how other people have done this before you launch into something, can be very, very important to do some research. I think to jump into something without doing any research, especially if it's a business idea, is probably a bit naive. So we do need to have a level of understanding of what we're hopping into, and we need to crunch the numbers. There have been many people who have not done the number exercise, and they've gone and let's say started up a cafe in an area that no one frequents very often, and they're not a destination shop yet. They're unknown. People don't know whether their food's good enough to go travel to. So they end up after 3 years and the lease is up, folding because they didn't think about location, location, location. If they had moved just a block further over, same kind of rental space, they may well have thrived. But because they were in the wrong block at the wrong time, without the people to sustain their business, they've gone slowly downhill. And all of that energy and commitment has gone nowhere. Now, it's not because they weren't brave. It was because potentially they were missing the bigger perspective. And that's where someone who's done it before could have said easily, hey, that spot's probably not going to help you in your business. Let's look at some other areas that are going to have more foot traffic and better parking and that kind of element. And if it's got those things, then people can get to you, have their cup of coffee and not worry about where they had to park, how long they were parking for, or how far away you are to where they've been. This is a simple thing in retrospect. So a lot of people go into business, they get burnt and they hop out and they go, okay. They either look at what they've learned and then give it a go, just slightly fine-tuning it, tweaking it, or they give up altogether. Too hard. I'll go work for someone else. I don't want this podcast just to be about entrepreneurs, but I'm just using it as an example, if you like, about a winner's mindset and how we get from dreaming up something that we want to achieve to actioning it. And it's not always a straight line. Quite often, when you see people who have been successful, they haven't just been successful immediately. They've done a whole series of things beforehand that have helped them to learn what they need to do to get it right next time. And so we end up seeing people who are thriving and have achieved these amazing goals and think they just got there straight away, which is not true. If you really look behind the scenes, they had a whole lot of jigsaw puzzle pieces that they need to work out to get the end result. Effort, curiosity, stubbornness are definitely ingredients to splice into achieving goals more easily. Now, hypnotherapy, how does that sit with helping people to achieve their goals? Well, quite often people, when they're going through their lives, they may not have that mentor with the go-to attitude, like whatever I put my mind to, I can achieve. They might have had the opposite kind of mentorship, which says, no, life is hard. It's always going to be a struggle. Money doesn't grow on trees. They might have had a whole lot of pieces of information coming at them that is teaching them the negative mindset. If we want that client to get into a winner's mindset, to take opportunities, even though they've never done it before, it might be scary, it might be big. This is really important that the client starts to imagine as if they've done it. Imagine you've been successful. You put in that hard work and you're successful. You wake up and your goal has been achieved. And it's not only been achieved, but you've excelled at it. What does that mean? Let's look at it. So in hypnosis, we can get a person to go and visit their future self and begin to gain insight into what that future self is doing, even the mindset of the future self, and copy and paste it and bring it back to the here and now and begin to run that program. So hypnosis and the hypnotic mind, that power of suggestion, I was. If we have a negative mindset, like goals are really hard to achieve, they will continue to be hard to achieve. So if, as a clinical hypnotherapist, I hear a client saying, yeah, it's going to be hard, I know. What if it wasn't? What if it was easy? What would that be like? I start to challenge that belief. So they quit telling themselves the same story, because you want them to make it easier, right? And I'm sure they would want it to be easier than it currently feels like. And mindset matters. So if, for example, we have a mindset that's always going to be a struggle, always going to be hard, it always will be, because you're actually priming your mind to have that kind of journey when you have that belief. However, if you believe that it's going to be easy, it's going to be fun, you're going to learn lots, then you will. You're more likely to have that experience. So the reframe, and that positivity reframe, is essential for a person to be able to achieve that goal and have fun doing it. It's not just about, I'm going to be feeling great once I've got that goal. It's about also the journey in between, where you start and having that goal that you want also to be a nice experience, a growth experience of some type that is beneficial and exciting, and that when you're learning and stretching yourself, it feels good, it feels nice. These are important things to prime within that client's mind. So if we go, okay, I used to find it challenging to set a goal and achieve it, it might suggest that that is now past, that now you are finding it easier to set goals and achieve them. Years ago, I used to have a phobia around technology. And I won't go into the history, but I was quite scared of anything to do with computers. And I had a very, very good friend who said, "Come on, Meredith, I'm going to teach you how to work on the internet." So he sat me down. He said, "This is a search bar, and you put in what you want to look for, and it'll pop up with a whole lot of different websites, and then you can go and visit the website and find out what you need." And now I wanted to build a website, but I had no idea how, and I didn't have the resources, the money at that point to be able to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for someone else to do it for me. So my very kind friend said, "I'm going to teach you how to build your website and how to maintain it using HTML coding." So here was I, absolutely technically phobic, but something in me wanted it because I knew it would be really helpful for my business. So I had to get over my fear. I had to get over that hurdle of not knowing anything to beginning a journey into finding out what I needed to know to be able to be successful. My goal to have my own website and be able to manage it well. So we started off by going on a site, and it was called Coffee Cup, and it helps you to see the color coding of the HTML language in the back end of a website. And once I got my mind around that, he started to say, "Now we're going to graduate to just black and white. So you won't have any colors. You're going to have to really look out for that code and where the header is and where the paragraph begins and finishes, and make sure that you've closed the code and all of those things." So step by step, he started to teach me. But he said something really game-changing to me that day. He said, "Go play, Meredith. Go play." Now, that was a powerful reframe for me because prior to that, I was thinking about it as being effort, hard, challenging. But when he said, "Go play, Meredith, you're going to get better and better the more you play," it made sense. And I lapped that up. It helped me to reframe my mindset. Now, I got to that point where not only did I do my website and I coded all of it from scratch, I could go in and change it. And it gave me the confidence to go in the back end of other people's websites, check their coding and what their keywords were and all sorts of things. So I became a little kind of fascinated about technology, and I gained the skills to get that competitive edge to become first on Google ranking. After a while, I evolved my skills into understanding how to optimize the SEO and how to build a presence more and more and more. And so, like everyone else, I started at the beginning. So it didn't come naturally. I just needed the right mentorship at certain points to pivot towards my success. So when we're wanting to achieve anything, it doesn't matter where we start. It's about starting somewhere and working it out as we go. So this is another thing that stops people from actioning, is thinking or believing that somehow you should know all the steps or all the answers. Well, no, that's not how successful people roll. Quite often it's working out in an agile way what will come next when we get to it, and trusting that we'll work it out when we get there, that we don't have to know all the answers. In fact, that is what causes people to move in a very, what we call, linear way to potential distress, because they haven't been agile enough to change as the circumstances needed them to. They've been too rigid. So I think a goal mindset is being agile enough to be able to reframe whenever you need to, whatever is going on as that next step, so it makes it possible. If there is information about the how that's missing, then that is something that we can go and seek externally. in the day and age of AI, it's really helpful. You can ask all sorts of coding questions to ChatGPT, and it'll kind of give you the answers back. So unlike the old school where you might have to Google and find someone who has put some source information around that code and then copy and paste it and adapt it to your own, it's completely changed. The world is changing rapidly, but we've got to stay agile up here. And this is where using hypnosis, even self-hypnosis, can be incredibly empowering. I remember once upon a time I did a 4.2K swim. Now, I'd never done that before, but it took me about a year to train. And I turned up to the swimming masters once a week. And a very kind woman, she gave me a program to follow. She said, okay, Meredith, you've never done this before, so I've designed a little training program and it's got targets. So as long as you do that many swims and that many lengths and this technique, you'll keep going and you'll hit that target of being able to do the 4.2K swim in open water. Now, she had done this before. She'd done Ironman and she'd done a whole lot of other amazing swims around New Zealand. And so this was an expert telling me how to achieve it. Now, prior to that, I had no idea about what kind of training would be necessary. So I was going in blind, but I surrounded myself with people who knew how. I didn't even know how to put a wetsuit on. So, I was really beginning at the beginning. And she was so kind. She actually travelled up for my first open water swim in Auckland, which was a 2 something swim across the Harbour Bridge area in Auckland. And that was amazing. She just was such a gift, actually. It really uffied me through those steps to being able to do the Taupo swim. Anyway, no matter how big or small the goal is, when we put our mind to it, you can get there, but you've got to be stubborn. So it's not just going, oh, it's taken too long, too much effort. If you really want to get whatever it is to be a reality, it does take effort and determination. And so placing in front of your mind the end goal can be helpful. Like how am I going to feel as I cross that finish line? Or how am I going to feel as I launch that website and I get seen by more and more people? How is it going to feel as I launch that business and I open the door for the first time? Whatever that is for you. It might be really tiny goals, like how would it feel if I kept my home tidy? It might be that. So declutter or something, something that's going to make your life more functional. Setting up a target, a date of destiny, like, when do I want to achieve that by? This is a really important part of gearing into achieving goals, because otherwise the dreamer, if it doesn't have a deadline of some kind, it can procrastinate. Oh, yeah, I'm too busy this week. And then you forget. You literally forget because you haven't taken action. You haven't created momentum. So in the hypnotherapy session with my clients, I'm there to help them to imagine creating that momentum, inviting that emotion. And emotion wins. Strong intention wins. Those two formulas together, when you're getting it right, it can help propel that person to achieving their goals. Most people feel fear of the unknown. Most people do. And fear can really be a roadblock. But it's illusion. It's not as solid as you think. When we start to imagine as if we didn't need to be dealing with the fear and we did it anyway, what would that be like? We start to bunny hop over it and just go, okay, let's imagine the mindset of success. What would that be? What is the base core belief I need to start saying to myself on the inside, often and frequently, that's going to help me pivot towards that success? That is a big part of that brain training. So as a hypnotherapist, I'm helping people to dress rehearse that success. And every time they dress rehearse that success, they're doing a thing called compounding suggestion. And that's powerful. But what happens when people aren't achieving their goals is they're doing a negative hypnotic experience on themselves. They're compounding all their failures. They're focusing on what they haven't been able to achieve. And they're building that belief on some level that I'm not that kind of person. I find it hard to achieve goals easily. Now, that's just so far. So if you're one of those people out there that does struggle with achieving goals, there is a point where you can begin to reprogram that. That very program of struggling, you can begin to reprogram yourself. And the hypnotic mind can assist you. So using powerful positive hypnosis to reinforce that positive change you wish to have is game-changing. A lot of people see me now and the things that I've achieved and think, oh, but that's her, that's Meredith. She obviously finds it easy. No, I started just the way everyone else did, and I had to put effort in. I had to put twice as much effort as some people because I was dyslexic. I couldn't read much for a very long time. I remember one of my goals in one of my years was to be able to read a book from beginning to end without losing interest in it. And I was able to do that, which was a real big breakthrough for me. And then I cottoned on to audiobooks, which was another wonderful breakthrough where if I really wanted to listen to that, but I was finding it hard going to read through from beginning to end, I would put the audiobook in 4 hours or whatever it's been read. It's like, yes. However, I will still read a book from cover to cover, but I had to train myself to be doing that methodically and remember I'm reading the book, because I used to, when I was younger, read the book, go, great, this is great. And then I put it down and I'd forget that I was reading the book. And then by the time I picked it up again, dusted off the dust, I had to start all over again because I'd forgotten what I was reading. It wasn't a habit of doing it regularly enough. So if we want to create a habit of doing something often and frequently to be able to achieve whatever goal it is, then, what does your routine look like? Can you steal time from that routine to dedicate proper time to focus on achieving that goal? So when I was training for the 4.2K swim, I had to dedicate after work every night to go to the swimming pool and do the lengths. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have achieved it. So that chunking it down and looking at what are the little tiny steps, habits of success that allow me to get to that either short-term goal or long-term goal, and then being stubborn about it, getting into that emotional mindset, yes, what's in it for me, and really focusing on that, getting excited about that, creates that momentum. If you want help in achieving your goals and you want to do a hypnotic session with me, you can visit my meredithmccarthy.com site and you can book online. I do work with people all over the world, so you're welcome to see the times that I have available. I'm here in New Zealand, so it's New Zealand time, but I do have an online booking system. You can flick me an email if you have any questions. But if you are interested in learning more about becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, visit the nzach.ac.nz site, which is my diploma course site. So I do a 1,000-hour diploma course in clinical hypnotherapy, and it is trauma-informed. You will learn a whole lot of stuff. There's 18 modules. We have live sessions once a week in the evenings from 7 till 9:30 New Zealand time. And it's really nice to be able to journey people through to unlock this toolkit. And so if you want to know more about the mindset, more about being hypnotized and or helping people as a clinical hypnotherapist, get in touch. Go visit the websites. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. If you really like this, please remember to like it. It helps the algorithms. It's one of those things, and the big sea of information out there would really help me a lot if you could like this video. And if you haven't, to subscribe to it if this is your sort of thing. I'm here once a week, just with all sorts of things to do with hypnosis, talking from my heart to you. So hopefully inspirational for those out there that are wondering what they're doing and how to get the best out of their mindset. So I'll see you again in another week, and thank you again for tuning in today. Bye.